Hello, my lovelies. It's Susanna, and today I want to show you how to solve this equation. We have x minus 1 to the power of 3 equals x minus 1. So we have x minus 1 on both sides of the equation, and I can imagine that some of you might say, well, then let's just divide both sides of the equation by x minus 1 so that we get rid of it here. In general, you can do that. That's a way to solve this equation, but you have to be careful because you divide by x here, and that can cause that you divide by 0 if you're not cautious. And if you don't really know what you're doing here, I wouldn't recommend dividing by x. But I want to show you two different ways how to solve this equation. The first way doesn't use this dividing by x minus 1 thing, so it's an alternative way. And then with the second way, I show you how to properly divide by your variable. Okay, but first of all, we're not going to divide. We just bring everything to the left side. So we take this x minus 1 and subtract it on both sides of the equation. So we subtract it on the right side and we're going to subtract it on the left side so that we get. On the left side, we have this x minus 1 to the power of 3 thing. Then we subtract our new x minus 1. And on the other side, these two cancel out and we only have 0. Now everything with an x is on the left side, and we have x minus 1 here and x minus 1 here. In between, we have this minus, so we can factor out this x minus 1 thing because it's in both parts in here. So let's do that. We factor out x minus 1. And what is left in the parentheses then? On the other side, we have this 0. In between, we have the minus. And if we factor out this green x minus 1 thing here, we had it 3 times here because of this to the power of 3. If we factor out one of it, we only have to the power of 2. So we take this x minus 1 and raise it to the power of 2. Then we have this minus here. And here, if we factor out this thing here, what is left then here if we factor out everything? Well, we had it 1 times in here. So if we factor out this green thing, only the 1 is left in here. Okay, this is how our equation looks like now. And now it's great that we have a product here because we have something times something equals 0. This is only possible if either this here is already 0 or this here is 0. So we can split this one equation into 2 separate equations. So either this first thing, this x minus 1 equals 0, and we're going to solve this equation for x, or what we have in these parentheses here, so all of this thing here equals 0, and we're also going to solve this equation for x. Let's start here. If we want to solve for x, we want to add 1 on both sides of the equation so that we have x here by itself because this cancels out, and on the other side we have our 1. So we found a first solution. X equals 1 is a first solution to our equation. So we keep that in mind, and now try to solve the second equation for x. So I wrote it down here, but we have in mind that we already found a solution, and maybe we find some more. We want to solve this equation for x as well. X is part of these parentheses here, so maybe first we bring this 1 to the other side by adding 1 on both sides of the equation. Then these parentheses are left on the left side. This cancels out. And on the other side, 0 plus 1 equals 1. Now, to solve for x, we have to get rid of the square here first. So we take the square root on both sides of the equation. We just have to remember that we're going to get 2 solutions then. On the left side, the square root helps us to get rid of the square, so only x minus 1 is left there. But on the other side, we have to make sure that we get two solutions, so we have to add the plus minus to the square root of 1. But the square root of 1, we can calculate that. This is just 1. So we have plus minus 1 here. And to solve for x, we just want to get rid of the minus 1 here. So we add 1 on both sides of the equation. So here we only have x because this cancels out. And on the other side, we have the plus minus 1. And then we add 1. So that we get two solutions. A first solution with a plus, so plus 1 equals 2. And a second solution with a minus. Minus 1 plus 1 equals 0. So in total, we found 3 solutions for our equation. And because of this to the power of 3 here, it is only possible to find a max of 3 solutions. But now, I wanted to show you a second way how to solve this equation if you decide that you want to divide both sides of the equation by x minus 1 right at the beginning. As I said, it is possible to do it, but always be aware that if you divide by a variable, that you have to make sure that you're not dividing by 0, because dividing by 0 is not allowed. So you have to check when would x minus 1 equal 0. And solve this equation for x. So we add 1 on both sides of the equation so that we have x here. This cancels out. And on the other side, we get a 1. So if x is equal to 1, then we would divide by 0 here. So this step here is not allowed if my x actually equals 1. So this step is only allowed if x is not equal to 1. So we get a case distinction here. My first case, what do I do if x is not equal to 1? Then I divide by this, that's fine. But I have to take a look at a second case. What actually happens if my x equals 1? And this step is something that most people forget about. So they just divide by this, but they have to take a look at what happens if my denominator equals 0. Maybe we start with the second case. So you always just check if x equals 1 is a solution of your equation. So not of this blue stuff here, but of this black equation of our original equation. So we just insert the 1 for every x that we have in here and see if we get the same result on both sides of the equation. So on the left side, we would have 1, if we insert the 1 for the x, 1 minus 1, and all of that to the power of 3. The result is 1 minus 1 equals 0. 0 to the power of 3 is just 0, okay? And on the other side, if we insert the 1 for our x, we have 1 minus 1, which is just 0. So on both sides of the equation, we get a result of 0, which means that this is a solution for our equation. So we found our first solution, and usually if you forget to do this step, you lose this solution here. But we just found it, so we already have a solution, and now we go this way here, where our x is not equal to 1, and check if we can find more solutions of this equation. Okay, if we divide by x minus 1 then, what do we get on the left side? We had x minus 1 to the power of 3. We divide by x minus 1, so we only have x minus 1 to the power of 2 then left on the left side. And here, if we divide something by itself, we get a result of 1. Now, to solve for x, it's the same as we had earlier on. We want to get rid of the square here, so we take the square root on both sides of the equation. Then only this x minus 1 is left in here, and here we have plus minus the square root of 1, so plus minus 1. To solve for x, we bring the minus 1 with a plus 1 on the other side of the equation, so that our x equals our plus minus 1 here, and then we add 1 so that we get our two solutions. The plus solution, plus 1 equals 2, and the second solution with the minus 1 plus 1 equals 0. And like this, we also find all three solutions we were looking for, and so we have two different ways on how to solve this equation. If you like this video, please give it a thumb up. It helps me a lot. I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Take care!